It's September. Loot has... I'm going to stop doing reviews on Loot because everyone knows the design is fantastic. So I don't know what I'm trying to convince you of. Although, quite frankly, I was a little flummoxed with this, but more on a design element. Let's get into it. Look, let's go over the basics. The supports are fantastic. The supports are great. They're easy to come off. That's not an issue. There are plenty of supports. Although, because the design of all the pieces is so lifelike, some of them tend to get kind of thin. Like the Queen, she's got these little strands of fabric that come off her arms when they're right next to supports. So when you're pulling off supports, you might pull off one of those. Maybe I did that? Yeah, I did. It's a little frustrating. Some of the little spiky gear monsters, it's sometimes hard to tell, like, wait, is that a support or is that a spike? And because they're so thin, you gotta be really careful when taking them off. And it creates this extra tediousness that isn't enjoyable, quite frankly, and I don't know that you would ever really notice it if they were just a little thicker. In terms of which will they break in normal play, also maybe, because some of these little, I don't want to call them an automaton, these little creatures, the mechanical ones, they don't have a lot of internal support, like built into the structure of the model. But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if, you know, they break. You're going to put them in a bag and do this. A random dice is going to knock into them, and it's like, oh, it just snapped. Right, because there's not a lot holding it up. So there should be, I wish there was a little more structural integrity. Now, again, you should still buy them. They're great. They're fantastic. But you should also know that you should carry some super glue around with you. Enrico, the Plum Druid, he's got this little square key. I told myself I was going to look up if there was a different word for it, and I didn't, so I'm just going to continue calling it a key. But a lot of the other things don't. Even when they're standing flat on a base, that's not a lot of surface area for the glue to hold. And because they're on the base, they could just... there is a little footprint for all of them, which is helpful. But what would be better is if there was an additional little square divot key into the base in the bottom of the foot, because then it's not going anywhere. You know, the dino that Enrico turns into, he just has a footprint. That's it. He's got one footprint holding it up. And it's kind of big and it's oblong, and it's like, yeah, that shit might break. Obviously they can be used for hero quests. Let's not get into it. It would be a great addition. Blah, 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 blah. So here's the thing that I am hesitant about. The design of a lot of the monsters is very mechanical. There's valves, there's springs, looks like there's, you know, hydraulic fluid hoses and things like that. And it opens up an advanced level of mechanical engineering, even beyond what you might think like gnomes. Like gnomes have a lot of mechanical things, but it always seems like a very sort of basic yet creative mechanical way of working that doesn't always work. These look somewhat highly sophisticated, and it just opens up a whole realm of possibility. And the terrain, which I'm not going to talk about now, I'll do it in the second one, some of the pipes look welded. So then we're entering a world in which there's welding that's possible, and you know, there's rivets and there's nuts and there's bolts and there's very highly technical engineering, and I don't know if that really works with HeroQuest or Ravenloft or Dragonlance or any other fantasy world. It seems really at odds. But I'm going to bring it all, flip that on its head. The thing that I absolutely love, and the number one reason why you should get this, is for the Enrico Plum Druid model. So he's a dude. He's got a mustache. He's got a hat with some feathers in it. He has a turtle shell on his back. In one hand, he looks like he's creating a fireball. In the other hand, he has a hammer. He's got some little dragon eggs on his pouch. He's got some little mushrooms in his other pouch. He's standing on top of an open sewer that has mushrooms on it. It's motherfucking Mario. It's Mario of Mario Brothers fame, and it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant that they were able to take such an iconic video game 16-bit character and give real life and identity to him into a fantasy world. And he's a druid. He turns into a dinosaur. He turns into Yoshi. It's really fantastic. Hold tight for the review of the terrain that's coming up, because that, again, it has... I don't know. If you want the Mario, you just buy the 75 millimeter. Shrink him down if you want to use him. Because the Dwarf is kind of ubiquitous. There's not a lot of unique creatures in this, and I don't know if the terrain is really worth it. So more on that coming up.